Tomorrow, the president will be in Pittsburgh for the G-20 Financial Summit. The Pennsylvania city has transformed itself from part of the Rust Belt into a center for high-tech growth and business opportunity. Mayor Ravenstahl of Pittsburgh joins us now to discuss his city's preparations for the visit. Mr. Mayor, welcome to Bloomberg News.
Thank you for having me.
Sir, why Pittsburgh?
Pittsburgh has a great story to tell, and the president himself has talked about Pittsburgh as a city that others should look to as a model. We've transformed our region, and because of that transformation, our unemployment rate right now is 2% below the national average. We've done that by diversifying. We're not no longer a steel-only city. We still do have steel, but we have high-tech, biotech, higher education, healthcare, life sciences, energy solution companies. So the diversity in Pittsburgh is one that is real. Our transformation is real,
right.
And it's an honor that the president has recognized that.
And Mr. Mayor, that transformation, if I'm correct, began over 20 years ago when Ronald Reagan was president and Dick Thornburg was the governor. And the realization was that some of the steel jobs, some of the industrial jobs, if you will, were not going to come back, and that Pittsburgh and the rest of the state of Pennsylvania had to turn a corner and had to go high tech. So you're in a unique position that this is a transformation that began about a quarter of a century ago.
Very true. When the steel industry declined in the late 70s and early 80s, Pittsburgh was at a crossroads. We had no choice but to pick ourselves up, and it's been decades worth of planning to get us where we are today. It's a great story. It's one, as I mentioned earlier, that's very real. We're proud of where we are today as a city and as a region, and I think the president chose Pittsburgh because we find ourselves in that same crisis here in the United States and across the world with the recession. Pittsburgh shows that there is hope, that you can turn yourself around if you do the right things and you plan accordingly, and we're so honored to welcome him to Pittsburgh tomorrow, as well as the leaders from throughout the world.
Still, Mr. Mayor, and I hate to be a downer here, but Bloomberg News is reporting that Pittsburgh is struggling with a shortfall of almost $1 billion in pension and bond obligations. You're effectively under the control of the state of Pennsylvania. So what are you doing to resolve these issues?
Well, as a young mayor, as somebody that really looks towards the future, these are issues that our administration has been forced to deal with. Crippling debt burdens, underfunded pension obligations. We've been very aggressive to put a plan in place to right-size that, to get Pittsburgh out of debt, to make sure that our pensioners are granted their pensions when they retire in the city of Pittsburgh. It's a plan that's going to take some time. We didn't end up in this problem overnight. We've admitted that there is a problem, and now we're putting plans in place to deal with it. So on the financial side, in 3 short years since I've been the mayor, not only have we balanced our operating budget, but we've made the tough decisions to look at those debt burdens and pension obligations as well.
What are those decisions? Can you describe the early stages to get out from under that debt burden?
Sure. For example, on the debt side of things, we've taken an approach to not issue any new debt for a 5-year period of time. That's really unprecedented when you consider it when local governments don't issue debt for that amount of time. So we've used our surplus to not issue debt. That, of course, has reduced our burden. On the pension side, we're not going to invest our way out of this problem. No matter how well the market turns around and when that happens, Pittsburgh and other municipalities and governments throughout the state and across the country face significant shortfalls. So what we need to do is find cash. We've proposed locally leasing our parking garages, which would have the effect of putting $200 to $300 million worth of cash into our pension fund. In addition to that, we've agreed to increase and pay into our MMO obligation above what our minimum requirements are. So it's a cash flow issue. We realize we need to put more cash into the fund, and that's what we've committed to doing and already started to do.
Mr. Mayor, how does the pension overhaul affect organized labor?
This is a city that's been built on organized labor. It's still very strong and active here. And to their credit, organized labor has been at the table and been part of the solution. They understand the challenges that this city faces, and they understand their jobs, their livelihoods depend on having a good, vibrant city with a good fund balance, with a pension fund that is fully funded. And so they understand that they have an interest in the overall solution and viability of Pittsburgh's financial situation. And as I mentioned, to their credit, they've been partners rather than adversaries in this conversation.
So what kind of economic impact will the G20 meeting have on Pittsburgh? What are you anticipating?
Well, during the week of the summit in these couple of days, we've estimated $20 to $30 million right now that will come into the city of Pittsburgh, hotel rooms, restaurants, and the like. What we can't quantify right now, and what is more exciting to me, is the long-term benefit of the summit. The ability for Pittsburgh to reintroduce itself to the world, to tell the story of a clean city, a green city, a city that's on the move. That means, of course, companies, global companies that may consider Pittsburgh in the future that otherwise wouldn't have if they didn't have the experience here during the G-20 summit. So $20 to $30 million right now up front, economic impact, but long-term is where we really hope to have those payoffs and benefits down the road.
Mr. Mayor, if I might ask you a question about the health care debate that's going on in Washington, one of the better-known hospitals in the country, Allegheny General, Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh with its famed medical school.
Right.
How is this health care debate affecting the residents in the city of Pittsburgh?
Well, we are now a city that relies in many ways on the eds and meds, the higher education organizations and the healthcare institutions in the city of Pittsburgh. I think we need reform. I think everybody acknowledges that. It's very important for those institutions that are here in the city of Pittsburgh. And speaking just on behalf of the city government that we operate, healthcare is a big issue. Those costs continue to climb and continue to rise and make it very difficult for us to balance budgets. So when we look at pension obligations, as we talked about, or debt burdens, health care is another real cost that continues to rise, and something needs to be done.
Lou Ravenstahl, Mayor of Pittsburgh, home of the defending Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins and the Super Bowl champion Steelers. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.